January 1st is not just another date on the calendar. It is not merely the beginning of a new year, a fresh page, or a moment filled with fireworks and resolutions. In the heart of the Church, January 1st is the solemnity of Mary, Mother of God, the day heaven chose to place a mother at the very threshold of time. This is not accidental. At the moment the world rushes forward, planning, building, expanding, heaven pauses and places Mary before us, not as an idea, not as a symbol, but as a living presence, guarding the entrance to the year ahead. Saint Padre Pio understood this better than most. He was a man who did not seek visions, yet heaven entrusted him with many. A soul deeply sensitive to the invisible battles that unfold quietly inside families, inside hearts, inside ordinary days. Padre Pio knew that when a new year begins, the spiritual world does not remain silent, because every beginning is a battlefield. Before we go any further, I invite you to pause for a moment, not as a viewer, but as a soul standing at the door of a new year. Before we begin, please comment below, "Mary, Mother of God, pray for us in the new year." Let this be more than words. Let it be an invitation. Because what Padre Pio was shown was not a vision meant to frighten, but to awaken. A year of growth, a year of progress, a year the world would call successful, and yet a year where families would be tested as never before, where homes would be filled with noise but empty of prayer, where individuals would feel surrounded yet profoundly alone. Padre Pio saw clearly, a year can be blessed and still be dangerous if God and His Mother are left outside the door. Tonight, we will step carefully into that vision, not with fear, but with faith, not to condemn, but to prepare. Because heaven does not warn without also offering protection. Padre Pio was not a man who chased visions or sought extraordinary experiences. On the contrary, he often begged God to take them away. For him, holiness was not found in what was dramatic or spectacular, but in obedience, suffering, and hidden faithfulness. And yet, heaven continued to entrust him with sights that most souls could not bear. Those who lived close to Padre Pio noticed something unusual. He was often more solemn, more guarded, even more burdened on great feast days than on ordinary ones. While others rejoiced freely, Padre Pio prepared himself as a soldier before battle. Why? Because he understood a truth that is often forgotten. Where grace overflows, resistance intensifies. In the spiritual order, holy days are not neutral moments. They are openings, windows through which heaven pours abundant grace into the world. But those same openings are also moments when the enemy becomes restless. Padre Pio knew this deeply. He taught that Satan does not waste his efforts on what is already lost. He fights hardest where souls are closest to God, where families are about to receive blessings, and where hearts are most open to grace. A holy day is never just a celebration, it is a confrontation. The greater the grace offered, the more violently it is opposed. This is why Padre Pio approached major feasts, especially those dedicated to the Blessed Virgin Mary, with a holy fear. Not fear of God's love, but fear of how fiercely that love would be attacked. He once expressed, in different ways throughout his life, a simple spiritual reality. Satan hates nothing more than what belongs to Mary. Why Mary? Because she represents everything the enemy lost forever. Perfect obedience, humility without weakness, a creature who said yes where others said no.
Mary did not defeat Satan with force. She defeated him with surrender. And that humiliation burns. Padre Pio understood that every Holy Marian feast reopens that ancient wound. Every time the Church proclaims Mary as Mother of God, the enemy is reminded that God chose to enter the world through humility, not power. So Padre Pio trembled, not because the day was dangerous in itself, but because souls would be tempted to receive grace carelessly. They would celebrate without praying, honor Mary with words but not with trust, enter holy days distracted, unguarded, and spiritually unprepared. And Satan waits precisely for that moment, not to destroy loudly, but to distract quietly. Padre Pio feared holy days because he loved souls. He knew that grace unreceived is not neutral, it becomes contested ground. This understanding sets the stage for what heaven would later show him on one such sacred threshold, the feast of Mary, Mother of God, and the year that would follow. It was deep into the night when Padre Pio remained alone in prayer. The monastery had fallen into complete stillness. No footsteps, no voices. Even the familiar sounds of the stone walls seemed to withdraw, as if creation itself was holding its breath. There was no sudden light, no thunder, no voice from heaven, only silence. Padre Pio knelt as he had so many nights before, worn, attentive, and emptied of himself. His prayer was not filled with words, but with surrender. He did not ask for visions. He did not expect answers. And then, without warning, the silence deepened. It was not the absence of sound, but the presence of something other. The air grew still in a way that felt alive, not heavy, not oppressive, but watchful. Padre Pio later struggled to explain it, for human language breaks down in moments like these. Yet he sensed clearly that he was no longer alone. And then she appeared, not in splendor, not in radiance that blinded the eyes, not surrounded by angels or signs of power. The Blessed Virgin Mary stood before him in simplicity. Her presence did not overwhelm the senses, it entered the heart. There were no words at first, no command, no reproach, only a gaze. Her face carried a sorrow that did not accuse, and a peace that did not deny suffering. It was the sorrow of a mother who sees danger approaching her children, and the peace of one who trusts completely in God's providence. Padre Pio could not move. The silence between them grew dense, not with fear, but with meaning. It was the kind of silence that precedes revelation, the kind that stretches the soul, preparing it to receive what the mind alone could never hold. He later described the moment as standing at the edge of something vast, knowing that once crossed, there would be no turning back. Mary did not speak immediately. She did not need to. Her silence itself was a message, a warning without words, a presence that said, "Pay attention." Padre Pio felt within his spirit that what was about to be shown was not meant for him alone. It was meant for families, for homes, for souls about to step into a new year, unaware of the unseen currents already moving toward them. The sadness in Mary's eyes was not despair, it was urgency, a maternal urgency that does not shout but waits to be noticed. In that sacred stillness, Padre Pio understood something profoundly unsettling. Heaven was about to reveal not a distant future, but a very near one. not a vision of catastrophe in the skies, but of quiet spiritual erosion inside ordinary lives. The silence grew complete, and then, without a word being spoken, Mary invited him to see. Without a word being spoken, the vision began to change. The silence did not break, it opened. Padre Pio felt as if the ground beneath his soul shifted, and suddenly he was no longer standing in the quiet of the monastery. Time itself seemed to move forward, unfolding like a veil being drawn aside. Mary allowed him to see a date clearly, not written, not announced, but known. January 1st, 2026. At first glance, nothing appeared wrong. The world looked confident, alive, successful. Cities were brighter than ever, illuminated by screens and artificial light. Technology had advanced rapidly, devices faster, more intelligent, more integrated into daily life. People moved with purpose, their schedules full, their hands always occupied. The economy, too, appeared strong. Markets surged. New opportunities promised security and comfort. Human achievement was celebrated loudly, as though progress itself could replace hope. Padre Pio saw crowds filled with movement, but not direction. Noise, but not communion. Everyone was connected, yet profoundly alone. Then the vision narrowed. Mary guided his gaze away from public triumphs and into homes. Inside, the contrast was devastating. Families still lived under the same roofs, but no longer in the same hearts. Dinner tables were set, yet untouched. Each person sat in silence, not the sacred silence of peace, but the hollow silence of separation. Eyes were fixed downward, hands clutched glowing screens. Words were few, and when spoken, carried impatience rather than love. Padre Pio felt a deep ache. He saw children growing up fluent in technology, yet unable to name their own loneliness. He saw parents exhausted, not from labor, but from constant distraction. He saw marriages still legally intact, but spiritually distant. Prayer had quietly disappeared, not through rebellion, not through hatred of God, but through neglect. Mary allowed him to see how easily prayer had been replaced by entertainment, by endless information, by the illusion of control. No one said, "We no longer need God." They simply lived as though he were unnecessary. In one home, Padre Pio noticed a crucifix hanging on the wall, untouched, unnoticed, covered with dust. In another, a Bible sat unopened on a shelf, its presence more decorative than formative. Grace was still offered, but rarely received. And then the pain deepened. Mary showed him the consequences, not immediate, not dramatic, but slow and corrosive. Small misunderstandings became lasting resentments. Minor frustrations hardened into bitterness. The absence of prayer weakened the soul's defenses, leaving hearts exposed. Padre Pio understood something terrifying in its subtlety. The enemy did not need to destroy families. He only needed to divide their attention. At that moment, the silence broke, not with sound, but with meaning. The words were not heard with the ears, but engraved upon the soul. The world will call it progress. Heaven will call it distraction. Padre Pio trembled. He saw that this was not a year of sudden collapse, but a year of quiet drifting, a year where people would feel busy, productive, even successful, yet increasingly empty. A year where homes would be full of activity, but absent of blessing. Mary did not show him these things to condemn. Her gaze remained calm, sorrowful, and unwavering. This vision was not a prophecy of doom, but a maternal warning. What is unattended will be claimed by another. As the images slowly faded, Padre Pio understood that January 1st, 2026 would not mark the triumph of evil, but a decisive moment of choice. Not for nations, not for institutions, but for families, and for souls willing to ask themselves a simple question: who truly rules my home?
Mary did not show Padre Pio scenes of chaos in the streets. No fires, no armies, no open violence. Instead, she led him quietly inside the home. And there, the true battlefield was revealed. The devil, Padre Pio understood, rarely destroys a family through sudden catastrophe. He is far more patient than that, far more subtle. He destroys homes slowly, not with hatred, but with exhaustion, not with screams, but with silence. Mary allowed Padre Pio to see how the enemy works when doors remain unlocked. He saw parents returning home tired, not only from work, but from carrying everything alone. Conversations were short, tones were sharp, small irritations sparked quickly because hearts had grown thin. Fatigue replaced tenderness. What once would have been forgiven easily now lingered. Words spoken carelessly were remembered longer than words of love, and the simplest misunderstandings began to harden into quiet resentment. No one planned this. It happened because no one was guarding the interior life of the home. Mary showed him something even more painful. Prayer had quietly vanished. Not because families rejected God, but because they no longer made room for Him. Meals were rushed, mornings were chaotic, nights ended with screens instead of silence. There was no moment where a family stood still together and said, "Lord, remain with us." And so, slowly, something else remained instead. Padre Pio saw how the absence of shared prayer weakened the home's spiritual foundation. When grace was no longer actively welcomed, the soul of the household grew exposed. Mary revealed that the devil does not enter homes loudly. He enters through neglect, through unspoken bitterness, through unresolved wounds, through the habit of postponing reconciliation. Forgiveness was delayed, then avoided, then forgotten. And without forgiveness, love suffocates. Padre Pio felt the weight of it deeply. He saw marriages where no one was unfaithful, yet intimacy had vanished. He saw children who were not abused, yet felt unseen. He saw homes that were functional, but not alive. Then Mary pointed to something decisive: the sacraments. Padre Pio understood that when the sacraments are neglected, families do not immediately collapse, but they become unprotected. Confession postponed until later, Mass attended irregularly, marriage reduced to a contract rather than a covenant. Grace was available, but unopened. Mary did not accuse these families. Her sorrow was that of a mother watching her children walk unshielded into a storm. The most haunting image followed. Padre Pio was shown a house, ordinary, clean, well-built. Walls stood firm, the roof was intact, everything appeared secure. Yet inside, there was an emptiness.
No sacred images acknowledged, no prayer corner, no sign that God was actively invited. It was a house with walls and a roof, but without the presence of God. And Padre Pio understood something chilling. A home without God does not become neutral, it becomes contested territory. Mary allowed him to see how the devil thrives in such spaces, not through possession, but through erosion. Love thinned, patience shortened, joy faded, not because people became evil, but because they became spiritually exhausted. The enemy's greatest success, Mary showed him, is not convincing families to reject God, but convincing them they can survive without him. As the vision lingered, Padre Pio felt a quiet urgency press upon his soul. This battle would not be fought with grand gestures. It would be fought in small, daily decisions. To pray together, to forgive quickly, to place God back at the center of the home. Mary's message was clear and unspoken. Where God is no longer actively welcomed, something else will quietly take his place, and the home, meant to be a refuge, becomes the front line. After showing Padre Pio the silent battle inside the home, Mary led his gaze even deeper into the hearts of those who lived there. Not institutions, not structures, but individual souls. First, she showed him the Father. Outwardly, he appeared strong, responsible, carrying the weight of providing, protecting, deciding. Yet inside, Padre Pio saw a heavy solitude. The Father bore many burdens, but shared few of them. He felt responsible for everything, yet supported by no one. Prayer, once a refuge, had become a distant memory. He no longer asked God for strength. He relied only on himself. And slowly that self-reliance turned into isolation. Mary showed Padre Pio how this loneliness hardened into irritation, how fatigue dulled compassion, how love, still present, struggled to express itself. The Father did not stop loving his family. He simply forgot where love is renewed. Then Mary turned Padre Pio's attention to the Mother. She was always giving, listening, holding everything together, yet her soul appeared drained. Padre Pio saw how often her sacrifices went unnoticed, how her tenderness was assumed rather than cherished, how her words were dismissed, not cruelly, but casually, and that casual disregard wounded her deeply. Mary showed how exhaustion, when combined with feeling unseen, slowly erodes joy. The Mother did not lose faith suddenly. She grew tired of hoping. Prayer felt like another demand instead of a source of rest, and so she began to carry everything alone. Then came the children. Mary's gaze lingered here. Padre Pio saw young souls surrounded by stimulation, screens, noise, opinions, yet starving for meaning. They moved quickly but without direction. They knew how to consume information, but not how to discern truth. They felt pressure to succeed, but no clarity about why. In the absence of spiritual grounding, identity became fragile. Mary showed Padre Pio how young people asking silent questions no one had taught them to bring to God. Who am I? Why am I here? Does my life matter? Without prayer in the home, these questions echoed unanswered. Some filled the void with distraction, others with rebellion, others with numbness. None of it satisfied. Padre Pio understood then that the devil's work was not loud or theatrical. It was methodical. He did not need families to curse God. He did not need souls to reject faith openly. Mary allowed the truth to settle with painful clarity. The devil does not need you to hate God. He only needs you to forget him. Forget him in the morning rush. Forget him at the dinner table. Forget him when wounds should be healed. Forget him when decisions are made. And when God is forgotten, the soul begins to drift, not toward evil necessarily, but toward emptiness. Mary's sorrow was not for sinners who struggle. It was for souls who no longer know where to turn when they struggle. Padre Pio felt the weight of this deeply. He saw that every soul, father, mother, child, was fighting a private battle, often unseen even by those living under the same roof. The home was still intact, the family still functioned, but the inner life, the place where God speaks, had grown quiet. Mary did not show this to condemn. She showed it because what is seen can be healed, and what is brought back into God's presence can be restored. As the vision lingered, Padre Pio sensed that this was not a message for others. It was a mirror held gently before every listener. A question whispered, not demanded. Where has God been forgotten, and what is he waiting to restore?
Padre Pio understood then that the battle he had been shown was not accidental. It was anchored in history, in theology, in a truth the devil cannot erase. The Feast of Mary, Mother of God, is not a sentimental celebration. It is a declaration. From the very beginning of salvation history, Mary stands at the center of God's response to human fallenness. When humanity fell, God did not answer with force. He answered with a woman. In Genesis, the promise was spoken clearly. I will put enmity between you and the woman, between your offspring and hers. She will crush your head. This was not poetry, it was prophecy. Mary is not divine, but she is chosen. Chosen to carry the Word made flesh. Chosen to give human nature back to God. Chosen to be the living bridge between heaven and earth. The devil knows this. That is why he hates her. Mary's role exposes a truth Satan cannot tolerate. Humanity is not saved by power, but by obedience. Not by domination, not by pride, but by humility, freely offered. When the Church proclaims Mary as Mother of God, it is making a radical statement. Human beings do not save themselves. God enters history through consent, not conquest. Mary's yes shattered Satan's logic. He rebelled through pride. She conquered through surrender. The Feast of Mary, Mother of God, reminds the world that God chose dependence, a child in a womb, a Savior nursed at a woman's breast. For Satan, this is unbearable, because it declares his defeat again and again. Every time this feast is celebrated, heaven repeats a verdict. God has already won. The devil attacks fiercely on this day because it reopens a wound he cannot heal. It reminds him that his strategy failed. He sought to destroy humanity by turning it away from God. Instead, God united himself to humanity through Mary. She is the woman who stands between Satan and total victory, not by force of arms, but by grace. Padre Pio understood that Mary's power does not come from authority over demons. It comes from her intimacy with God. Where she is present, God is welcomed, and where God is welcomed, the devil cannot remain. That is why attacks intensify around this feast, not because Mary threatens through spectacle,
but because she restores order. She brings God back into homes, back into hearts, back into the ordinary. And that is what Satan fears most, because the devil thrives where God is absent, but Mary's presence always points to him. She does not draw attention to herself. She declares, silently but firmly, "He is here." And for the enemy, that announcement is unbearable. The Feast of Mary, Mother of God, is not about honoring a title. It is about remembering a truth. God chose to come close, and Satan has already lost.
Padre Pio said that when Mary finally spoke, her voice did not thunder, it trembled, not with fear, but with concern. Her words were not commands carved in stone. They were not warnings wrapped in fire. They were the words of a mother who sees her children walking into danger, not because they are evil, but because they are distracted. She did not say the year ahead would be cursed. She did not speak of punishment. She spoke of absence. "Do not enter the new year without prayer," she told him. Not because prayer forces God to act, but because prayer keeps the door open. Without prayer, homes do not become evil, they become empty, and emptiness is where the enemy enters quietly. Mary showed Padre Pio families stepping into the new year with celebration, noise, and plans, but without blessing. Calendars were filled, hearts were not. Doors were locked at night, but souls were left unguarded. She did not accuse, she grieved. "Do not leave your homes without God," she said. Not because God abandons first, but because he never forces his way in. Mary made one thing painfully clear. The danger of the coming year was not persecution, it was forgetfulness. Families would not renounce God, they would simply stop inviting him. Meals would begin without a sign of the cross. Nights would end without gratitude. Sundays would be treated like any other day, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, God would become a stranger in his own house. Mary's warning was not dramatic, it was intimate. She spoke like a mother who knows that what destroys a home is rarely a single disaster, but 1,000 small neglects. "You do not need to fear the new year," she told Padre Pio, "but you must not walk into it alone." Her concern was not about the world's chaos, but about what happens when chaos enters the heart. Without prayer, fatigue becomes bitterness. Without God, wounds harden instead of healing. Without grace, silence turns cold. Mary did not ask for grand devotions, she asked for presence. A simple prayer together, a home that remembers God belongs there, a year begun with humility instead of control. Padre Pio understood then, this was not a prophecy of doom, it was an invitation, a mother extending her hand at the threshold of a new year, saying, "Do not cross this line without us." Because where God is welcomed, protection follows, and where a mother is present, the child is never truly alone. After everything Mary revealed, Padre Pio expected a list of demands. He expected heaven to ask for sacrifices beyond reach, penances only saints could carry, devotions too heavy for ordinary families. But Mary asked for none of that. What she showed him next was almost painfully simple. Heaven was not asking for perfection, it was asking for presence. Mary did not request long prayers or complex rituals. She did not ask families to withdraw from the world. She asked for small openings, cracks of light where grace could enter. One prayer each day, not spoken perfectly, but spoken sincerely.
a moment where a family pauses, even briefly, to remember they are not alone. One sign of the cross, at the beginning of the day, before sleep, before stepping into the noise of the world, not as a superstition, but as a quiet declaration. This home belongs to God. One Hail Mary prayed together as a family, not rushed, not mechanical, a single moment where voices rise together, inviting a mother to stand watch where words often fail. Mary showed Padre Pio that where these small acts were present, the enemy grew restless. Not because darkness fears noise, but because it cannot endure remembrance. She made him understand something profound. The devil does not retreat from power, he retreats from humility. A home that prays simply becomes difficult to disturb. A family that remembers God daily does not need to live in fear. Mary did not promise that pain would disappear. She promised that it would not be faced alone. She did not promise an easy year. She promised protection where she is welcomed. And then Padre Pio heard the truth that anchored everything he had seen. Where Mary is welcomed, darkness loses its voice. Not because Mary replaces God, but because she always leads souls back to Him. Heaven is not asking for much, just a door left unlocked, a light kept on, a mother invited in. And in that simplicity, grace does what fear never could.